Deuteronomy 4, verse 15. You saw no form of any kind the day the Lord spoke to you at Horeb out of the fire. Therefore watch yourselves very carefully, so that you do not become corrupt and make for yourselves an idol, an image of any shape, whether formed like a man or a woman, or like any animal on earth, or any bird that flies in the air, or like any creature that moves along the ground, or any fish in the waters below. And when you look up to the sky and see the sun, the moon, and the stars, all the heavenly array, do not be enticed into bowing down to them and worshiping things the Lord your God has apportioned to all the nations under heaven. But as for you, the Lord took you and brought you out of the iron smelting furnace, out of Egypt, to be the people of his inheritance, as you are now. In this video, I want to talk with you about that fish that people claim to be the so-called Jesus fish. Here in Deuteronomy 4, it says, watch yourselves carefully, so that you do not become corrupt and make for yourselves an idol, an image of any shape. And people call it a symbol because they don't want to call it an image. But it's not a symbol, it's an image, whether formed like a man or a woman, or like any animal on the earth, or any bird that flies in the air, or like any creature that moves along the ground, or any fish in the waters below. The word is very clear. Don't set up an image. And even clearer, even more specific, do not set up for yourself an image that is like any of the fish in the waters below. I mean, it can't get any clearer than that. So what is this so-called Jesus fish? Well, it is the ichthus fish, and naturally is referred to as a symbol rather than an image, but it is an image. And it is an image that was used in ancient times as a pagan fertility talisman or amulet, and was then adapted in as a Christian, counterfeit Christian image. But that's all it is. It's a pagan image. Just like the cross, just like pictures of Jesus, just like little statues in nativity scenes and otherwise. You know, I was raised Mormon, and there's only certain people can go into the temple, so I've never been in the temple, but there was a visitor center that was near the temple, and you would go in and watch you could watch Mormon movies and things like that. But anytime that you walked into a visitor center, there was a gigantic statue of Jesus. Gigantic. I mean, I suppose it doesn't matter if it's small or gigantic, but I would think that anyone who's actually reading the Bible would look at this huge image, a statue, and that might jog their memory as to pagan worship and the pagan statues that you see all throughout Rome. But see, counterfeit Christianity has become so normalized that you see that little fish on the back of someone's car, or you see a cross hanging on their rearview mirror, or around their neck, or in a tattoo that God said never to get. And you think, oh, there's another Christian. Oh my goodness. That is not Christian, guys. Those who know their God, those who know their covenant, know that these things are not Christian. It's got to come out of us. Now, I will tell you something, that when I published the books, I didn't know anything about the cross to Tammuz or this, this fish. God hadn't been talking to me yet about images or taking this out of me. And so I've taken this up with him. I've asked him, well, what about the pictures that are on the front of the book? Are those images? And the way that he responded to me had to do with bowing down to worship. And not necessarily physically bowing down to worship, because when I see a fish, I've never felt the desire to bow down and worship that. But I have felt in my heart, oh, that's a symbol of, that's an image of, and that it's to be revered in a particular way. I don't feel that with a picture of hands and people inside those hands representing the multitude in white robes. For me, it's more of a representation of the relationship between God and his people, which we're not worshiping the relationship between God and his people. I don't feel the same about that as I have felt when I previously thought that a cross or a fish or a statue represented Jesus. I don't feel like that represents Jesus. I feel like what it represents is a relationship and of God's people being in his care. So that's something for you to take up with God. That's something also for you to make sure that there's not like an image that you're setting up in your heart with regard to this. If there is, then you got to ask God what to do with that. But to be honest, I was really distressed about it, and I did bring it to God, and I want to make sure that everything that I'm doing is clean and pleasing to him. So I took it up with him. Do I need to change? Should I just have a black screen? I'll pull the book off the shelves and change the cover. Whatever it is that you want me to do. Have I been wrong? But that was the response that I received. Please discern this message with God.